Welcome, DeFi degenerates, to DeFi Crypto and Airdrops. This is going to be episode 10 of the DeFi Academy. And I'm going to talk about last episode, I talked about building out a portfolio that has a solid foundation to earn steady income no matter what the markets are doing. Also, I talked about, if you want to, leverage up your risk and things like that. Um, potentially things that you can do to, without affecting that foundation to boost your earning. But what I want to talk about in this one is I want to build on that. So I see a lot of people in the Discord that are always asking about, how to earn steady income. Not necessarily, they're not looking to get rich tomorrow, and you shouldn't have that mindset in DeFi. The money will come. But with DeFi, it is a good, slow, steady build, and that's where your mindset needs to be, is having that disciplined, day in and day out grind to where you're able to churn, where, you might start out where you're only making, a couple dollars a day or $10 a day. But I'm going to show you how it might not seem like a lot, but even making $10 a day is a good amount of money per month. And you can use that to grow your portfolio to where you can make a minimum of, $3,000 a month, and use that to keep growing your portfolio. So anyway, hey, happy Sunday, Johnny. Hey, how's it going, Deadwood? Yeah, I just had some time. I was just kind of sitting around the house, and I did all my outside work yesterday, and so I figured I'd jump on and do another DeFi Academy episode. But if you guys have any questions, please, by all means, shout them out. Oh, hey, what up, Ape? Then, yeah, no, I'm glad you were able to make it. So, yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and jump on into it. So right off the bat, I always like to show our socials. If you're, I'm streaming to, multiple YouTube channels, multiple X accounts, things like that. Looks like Rumble didn't connect, but that's all right. But I want to make sure that people know where to find us. So our main channel is DeFi Crypto Airdrops, at DeFi Crypto Airdrop, no S. And this is where you're going to find a whole family of channels that is going to satisfy whatever it is you're looking for. So Discover Crypto is just a good mix of everything: macro news, crypto, politics, whatever. And I know a lot of people don't like to talk politics, but grow some thick skin. You need to understand that politics directly affects investing. If it's real estate, if it's traditional finance, if it's, decentralized finance, crypto, whatever it is, politics affects it. So again, grow some thick skin and learn how to adult and be in a room with opposing views. So and there's a lot of people that across the whole spectrum that join these channels. Blockchain Basement, a little more based, a little more right leaning, but there's something in there for everybody. Drew does a great job over there with Isaac. Isaac's about to ship out to the army. So, Drew's going to be flying solo there. Maybe I can jump in and help him out from time to time. Blockchain Report, my co-host on Mondays and Saturdays, Jeff, does a great job with airdrops over there. If you're interested in earning free crypto for, farming airdrops. BitLab Academy, you got Kelly over there teaching technical analysis and day trading. Josh is really good about that on Discover Crypto as well. And then, of course, our Discord. If you jump into the Discord, there's a free section. So this BitLab training hub, you got DeFi starters in there. I drop a little bit of alpha in there, and then Drew, Josh, and Kelly are always going live in the mornings, weekdays, and sharing their trades. So if you're looking to get into trading, if you're looking to get into DeFi, this is a great place to get into it. And then, of course, we have our DeFi Crypto and Airdrops Discord, where we're a little more spicy. We allow a little bit more to go on in there. So enough about socials. Let's jump into this. So we're going to be talking about, like I said, I want to talk about how I personally, and I'm not saying that this is what you should all run out and do. This is just what I personally am doing to earn, you know, a, an average of about $3,000 a month. I started with $15,000. I'm now up to about I'm up to 30, just over $36,000 in my DeFi portfolio that I've built over the past 6-7 months, starting out with 15 grand, and that's at current prices. So it's actually a lot more, and I'll get into that. But one thing that I want to touch on is DeFi Llama. It's, obviously it's what I use. It's my go-to when it comes to data analytics, anything to do with DeFi. If you're not using it, I highly suggest you bookmark it, make it your Bible. This is your DeFi Bible. But I keep talking about the correlations matrix. This is where it's at. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you have correlation. And it very basically, this is where you can find, whenever you're looking to get into a pool, if it's a USDT AVAX pool, then you just find USDT, come down, to AVAX, where the two lines meet. And you can see USDT AVAX is not very well, it doesn't have a very good correlation. So what that means is how well the assets move together. If they move up together, down together, if they move opposing. And we'll get into how that's important. So let's jump into this. So this is our free DeFi portfolio tracker that we got from a good friend over at Crypto Labs Research. I've done a bunch of work to it. It's very different than what it started out as being, but they offer it for free over there. Good group of guys. If you're looking for advanced strategies, I highly suggest you watch, follow both them and us. We'll be getting into more advanced strategies as we move on. Right now, I am focusing on entry level DeFi because we're the only ones out there that I've found doing it. Everyone else is talking at a very high level, using large amounts of money. So I want to keep this simple, stupid. I want to use smaller amounts. The 101 of DeFi. Excuse me. You can see right now the markets. Actually, let's go back to here real quick because I want to show you how dead the markets are right now when it comes to DeFi. This weekend, I mean, weekends are always slow, but right now it seems like it is super, super quiet. All the APRs are down, all the volumes are down. Everything is down right now, being the weekend. For whatever reason, it's not really reflecting here, but I'll show you. Right now I'm only earning 493% on my KTA wrapped ETH. I'm only earning 27% on my wrapped ETH USDC. My Arrow USDC, my full range pool is doing really nice at 52%. And I'm going to touch on that. That's going to be the major focus here, is the difference between having the majority of your portfolio being full range positions, lending and staking, as opposed to a bunch of range positions that are going in and out of range to where you're not getting steady income. So, that's kind of why I'm showing you this right now. So here we are. Even with as slow as everything is, and a number of my range positions being out of range, I'm still earning $88 a day, which translates to $2,641 a month, or just shy of $32,000 a year. If you, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself. All right. So you can see, yes, I have $36,000. Not a lot of people out there have 36 grand to throw into DeFi. Again, I started with 15 grand. You can start with 5. You can start with 1,000. But like I said in the last episode, I highly, highly suggest you focus on building your foundation first. Your foundation being pools and DeFi positions that constantly earn. So staking, delegating it, natively, on chain. You might only earn, a couple of percent, or, like with Casper, I've been earning 16% for a couple of years now. So, there's a range that you get, but it's very safe and it's very steady. You're always earning off your bags. Then you have, I think, staking. Full range pools is actually, let's go with lending. Lending, you are again earning a lower APR, but you are always earning. You're lending out your assets for, low double digits. Single digit, low double digits is, probably what you're going to end up earning on your. Actually, let's pull up Aave real quick and take a look and see what's going on, because right now is a good gauge on kind of, on the lower end, because everything is so quiet. The volumes are, so down, and you got a holiday weekend coming up. So let's go into here. Let me zoom out a little bit. We're like way up too close and personal. All right, let's look at the markets. All right, so you can see supply APY. Again, nothing that's going to make you wealthy overnight. USDC, you're earning about 4%. For the most part, you're earning about 3%, on most assets. So, and we're not going to get into it this episode, but there's ways to lever this up, and that's, the lending borrow flywheel. We'll get into that in future episodes, but this is a great way, if you have assets sitting idle, that you can earn a couple of percent. It might not seem like a lot, but it adds up quick, and I'll show you here in a second. So we've covered lending, we've covered staking. Now let's look at full range positions. So let's pull this one up. So you can see here, I have an arrow full range position here, and then up here, I have an arrow full range position. And, together I have about $5,000 worth of liquidity in there, and I'm earning 52%. So this one, I'm earning $4.39 a day. And this one down here, I'm earning another $3. So I'm earning about $8 a day. Doesn't seem like a lot, $8. But you can see here my daily rewards for, this, wrapped ETH position I have, my full range arrow position, and my one KETA position, range position that's in range. I'm making $20 a day. Now, if you look at hourly, it's only 82 cents. And you might think, oh, 82 cents, that's nothing. But again, you go to daily. Now I'm looking at almost $20 a day. Still might not seem like a lot to a lot of people. Weekly, I'm making $137 a day. Monthly, I'm making $600. And this is just off 3 positions. And then yearly, I'm making $7,200. So zoom out. Don't focus on the short term. With DeFi, it's all about long term. Compounding yield, looking at, hourly and 4-hour charts instead of 15-minute and, 5-minute charts. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So I just wanted to show you how, again, hourly, if you were looking at this, you would think, oh, DeFi is not worth it. But again, I look at monthly. I'm making $600 every month. And again, this is with really low APRs right now. Hey, what's up, Chili? Glad you can make it. Actually, let's get some questions here. Been doing mostly staking and basic liquidity. Just jumped into my first paired liquidity pool, wrapped ETH Ondo. Congratulations. I'd be interested to hear what you're making on that wrapped ETH Ondo, because I haven't been able to find any good Ondo pools. I got out of my Tempest Plume pool and just put it back into Uniswap. I'd be interested to hear more about that, Wispy. because mine's still in there and seems to be earning pretty well. So I'd be interested to hear, um, why it is that you decided to go that direction. All right. So let's get back on track here. So again, this is what I'm currently making. In a very, very quiet crypto and DeFi market. I mean, if you've been watching the markets, everybody's beat the F down. They're, I don't know. I don't know how much more of a beating we can take here. So, but again, in DeFi, we're earning, a beat down market, sideways market, downward trending market, if the markets are pumping, we're always earning in DeFi. And that's what I'm covering here. I know I'm taking the long road to get there, but I really want to paint the picture. So stick with me. All right. So last episode, we talked about, again, full range, staking, and lending. And I'm going to show you, using my portfolio, how I got there. All right. So you can see, these two positions are red. They're out of range. They're very, very far out of range. I need KTA to come back up. I'm basically hodling KTA in those two positions right now. I have two KTA positions earning, though. I have this one that's been doing really well. I've already earned back my initial investment. I believe it was $500 that I initially put into that one. Again, why I use my tracker. Where are you at? Yep, there it is. So yeah, $500. So I'm earning $500. All right, I started with $500, and now I got $429. So I have earned that back already in earnings, and I've cashed that out and opened other pools and did other things. But in one of them is actually this. We did an episode on SXT, or space and time. It's has to do with data, but I opened a small position. I used $300. I've made $7 since last night, and I've earned on top of that 56 cents in fees. Again, super low APR. Not a lot of people are swapping for it, so I'm not earning a bunch. But the same thing I did with Plume, the same thing I did with KTA, is before they were pumping, I opened these positions. And then when they started pumping and got a bunch of attention, the volume came. Everybody rushed in and started swapping for these assets. And that's how I churned $800, worth of Plume into over 5,000. That's how I churned about $800 in KTA into about $4,300. So that's how you build bags in DeFi. I always have a full range position before I start opening range positions. And this is where I get to my point. The reason being is, you can see right now, I'm earning just off this small full range position. It's just slowly ticking the fees up. Every time I get to $100, I usually take profit, and sometimes I'll roll it in. Sometimes I'll use it to open a new position. It really just depends on how, different pools are producing. But I have this range position, and it's barely out of range. I could probably do a snuggle rebalance, drop the bottom end of my range down a little bit, and be in range quite a bit more. But with Uniswap and ETH fees and all that, I'm being stubborn. So, but that's why I have the full range pool, is I'm always freaking earning. So let's go back to here. So you can see, most of mine are these ranged auto. So on Beefy, I have these automated pools. They are ranged. However, the way Beefy does these is it auto compounds and it auto rebalances. So I can put my liquidity in there. I can let it sit. right now, P&L wise, I am beat down. Even with my earnings, I am down in these positions because, since I opened these pools, KTA dipped, AVAX dipped, Sonic dipped, all these things dipped. So I am down, but the free tokens that I'm earning and compounding back in, when prices go back up and the market takes off, then I'm just going to have more tokens that are going to go up with the markets. So I'll be in a much better position when the markets recover than if I just hodled. Hope that makes sense. But again, this is no maintenance. I put my liquidity in here and I go about my life. And again, the point I'm getting at here, full range positions. I put the liquidity in here. I go and live my life. I don't have to worry about, what's going on if it's, a good solid asset. What else we got here? I could show you the plume stuff, but I won't. So basically, that's where we're at. This is probably the worst I've seen, this weekend. Is the worst I've seen DeFi in my 7 months, as far as APRs and volumes and things like that. And yet I am still earning. I'm earning that $88 a day. So that is because of how I built my portfolio out, the foundation. Again, staking and delegating, lending, and full range positions. I cannot stress this enough. It's, daily in the Discord and on X, I am, talking to people about this. Yes, if you have a higher risk tolerance, you can jump straight into range pools and you'll probably do pretty well. I mean, my brother Taylor did it, but he's using large amounts of money. I prefer, for sustainable growth, to build out a portfolio where the majority is in pools and DeFi plays that are always earning yield, because this $88 a day that I'm earning, after a week, that's, 650, 660 bucks. I can open a new pool with that. Every week I can be opening a new pool. And every time I open a new pool, it just adds, especially if it's a full range pool. Even if I'm only, making, like, say, since it's 88 bucks, let's say it makes $12. Let's say it makes $12 a day. I'm back up to $100 a day, which is my goal. My goal is to make a minimum of $100 a day. That is my first milestone that I set for myself. I've accomplished that. I mean, because like I said, the markets are shit right now. Usually I'm making about $150 to $200 a day. And so my next goal after that was to get to 500, and then 1,000, and then 2,000. And I want to just, keep, building like that. You got to have short, the kind of 25-meter target. You got to have short-term goals. My long-term goal is I want to be making $30,000 a month, which is $1,000 a day, roughly. And basically be using the majority of that just to keep building my crypto and my investment portfolio, my DeFi portfolio. Let's see. Looks like we might have lost connection for a second. All right, let's go through some of these through the chat. All right, here we are. Jay, I swear I'm putting my extra arrow in pools. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I have as few assets sitting in my wallets and sitting dormant as possible. Just got back from another trip and heading to Puerto Rico tomorrow. Awesome, dude. Yeah, no, I got family down there. Puerto Rico's beautiful. I've actually even thought about buying a place there. Wispy says, mine wasn't earning well at all. I thought your rewards weren't showing up either. You know what? Let's take a look. Doop-doo. All right, let's connect the old wallet. Just thinking about it. Switch network. All right. So you can see it shows my position, Wispy. It shows my range, shows how much, value I have, $609. I started out with 600. It says I'm making 674% APR. And then if I come over here to the three dots and click on details, it actually brings up this card and it says total value 610.15. My earned plume, I've earned about $32 or $36. Yeah, I've earned about roughly $36 that I've earned. So, off of the 600. So, yeah, like I said, I seems to be earning fine. Actually, it seems to be earning better than my ones on Uniswap. So, yeah, I'm not sure, what you were looking at or what your ranges were, or, yeah, I'm not sure, man, but seems to be doing all right for me. I'm going to leave it in there for now. Oh, and Tempest. Yeah, Tempest, not so much. Let's look at Tempest. All right. So yeah, I Tempest for sure. It has definitely been giving me some issues. I got 46 ambient points. Man, it is not wanting to load. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, Tempest has been hit or miss on but the what I have in Tempest, it if I'm not mistaken, it shows up on ambient. That's the one I'm looking at on ambient. Yeah, not sure why it's being so difficult. And we'll let that marinate. We'll move on. One that I'll touch on is Crystal. So Crystal is a DeFi aggregator like VFAT that you can connect to. The only issue that I found on Crystal, though, is that it doesn't pick up all my pools. So it picks up everything I have on Uniswap. If you have stuff on Pancake Swap, it will pick that up. Sushi, same thing. Camelot, Radium, Katana, a bunch of them. But on Aerodrome, it only picks up concentrated liquidity pools. It doesn't pick up the full range pools. So since both of my Aerodrome positions are full range Aero USDC positions, it doesn't pick them up. So kind of sucks because it's a great platform. I love analytics. I like to be able to see how my pools are performing, and you can see my Plume USDC pool here. I have about 1,500, a little over $1,500 of liquidity in here. My P&L, or my profit and loss, I've made $1,800. So I've made more than my initial investment back. Unclaimed fees 2,113. I'm making about 7,000% APR on average. It's the one that's out of range right now, so I'm not earning on that one. Here's my full range pool. I'm down $262 on that one, mostly because of the price dip. definitely made, plenty of earnings off of it that I've cashed out. And then this new one, that SXT USDT position, all in the green. So, except for this little guy here. But again, I've taken a lot of profits. So, but yeah, Crystal is really good at giving you, this analytics. You can enter and exit pools. You can look up, vaults and strategies. You can look up hot pools. So you can come here. You can sort by 24-hour volume, because obviously you want to go where the volume's at. Wrapped ETH USDC. This is one of the positions that I'm in, but on Uniswap. Actually, is it Uniswap that I am on? Let's take a look. Do Yeah, yeah, I'm on Aerodrome. So Aerodrome is great for volumes. I can't say enough about Aerodrome. I mean, it's number 6 and overall. You got Pancake Swap, Uniswap, Radium is usually the top 3, and then Aerodrome is right up there. But Aerodrome, for the most part, is just it's just base network. So whereas Uniswap and Pancake Swap are multi-chain. So the fact Aerodrome is up there with them and it's only base chain says a lot. So um yeah, Wispy, I'm still having issues where it's not wanting to show my positions over here, unfortunately. Let's go to ETH and see what it says. Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't show up on Tempest, but it shows up on Ambient. So yeah, not sure what's up with that. Yeah, markets are boring as fuck. Right now, super super boring. Um, Wispy. I keep getting $100 a day and then dropping to $10. You got to find those full range pools that have steady yield. Again, my best earners that really stabilize my daily earnings are those Arrow USDC pools. That and my locks, things like that. Um, uh, Jay, it looks like you missed night's episode on space and time. I mean, I determined that it looks to be, you can watch the episode, but it looks to be a decent project. Um, has a lot of really good backing, and they're addressing a strong pain point. So I put $300 of OPM, other people's money, that I earned in yield, and opened that pool, to see if USDT SXT pool, and I'm going to see what I can turn that $300 into. I'm not going to invest in any more, space and time. It's just whatever that pool does is the bag of SXT that I'm going to have. That's what I like to do. That's how I build my portfolio. Is I'll take, a couple $100 and I'll make it, grow itself. If it doesn't grow itself, then I don't see it as a good investment. Tempest seemed good at first, and then it just quit working for me. Yeah, Tempest has some work to do. Um, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, anybody that's watching, we got a couple hundred people watching live. Feel free to come over here to YouTube and jump in the chat. I love answering questions. I hate just sitting here, trying to give out info and stuff like that. But or just coming up with things to say. I love giving info. Poor choice of words. So let's do this real quick. So really, I mean, that's kind of the long and the short of it. Is I talked about building a good portfolio and building that foundation in the last episode. And I really just wanted to show how even in these boring markets where, DeFi is boring, APRs are down, volumes are down. I mean, we are in a beat down market, and I'm still bullish. I'm still, very, very bullish. And this is the time that is going to make your portfolio. When the markets are pumping, that's, the race is half over. Right now, when it's boring is when you need to be opening these pools so that when the markets do pump, these full range pools, and and the uh lending, that you have in there and the staking that you have in that foundation, the value of those are going to pump with the markets. The staking, you get 100% price appreciation. In lending, that liquidity that you have, that's still yours. You still get full price appreciation on top of whatever you earned in that lending and that staking. The earnings that you got, that those get full price appreciation as well. Plus, if you're doing it right, you're compounding that back into your position or using it to open, new liquidity pools. Now, full range liquidity pools, you're not going to get full price appreciation because it's going to keep an equal amount of the two assets. As the markets pump, like my USDC Arrow, as the markets pump and the price of Arrow goes up, it's going to be DCAing or selling me out of Arrow into USDC to keep an equal amount of those two assets. So I might only get like 80%, price appreciation. However, all of the yield that I've earned in fees that I have sitting in my wallet or that I have in locks or, or whatever, other pools that I've opened, that is going to go up in value as well. So, think of your DeFi portfolio as a garden. You might start out with one tomato plant. You take those seeds and you plant other tomato plants that are going to make more tomatoes. You take those tomatoes and you use those seeds to plant more tomato plants. Next thing you know, you have a whole garden bed full of tomato plants. And maybe Arrow is the tomatoes. Maybe you want to start a wrapped ETH, positions and grow an ETH, bags for the bull run. Maybe you start out with a couple $100 and you take that yield and say that that's your squash. And you take those seeds and you start another one. And, maybe you do a range position to where you earn more yield being more fruit, more squash that make more seeds that you can use to plant to make more. And it just compounds. So, you might start out like I did with one position. I started with this. I started with wrapped ETH USDC. It was my only position. I had about 8 grand in it. The rest of my money was in an Arrow lock that has just been compounding back into itself. So I didn't use any of that to open any of these other positions. But this wrapped ETH USDC, that's the mother plant that I used to do all of this. I funded all of these pools with yield from this wrapped ETH USDC position. Right now, it's only worth $3,400. I started out with 8 grand because, ETH was around 4,000, 4,200 at the time when I opened it. It took a hard deep dive down to, $1,600 at one point. And now we're, back up, not, to the same levels, but, we're back up. And so that's, why I have $3,400 in there. But when we get back up to 4,000, 4,200, I'm going to be closer to, I'll be a little bit shy because I locked in some losses, but I'll be, probably around the 7,200 to 7,500, when we get back up to, those ETH, price points we were at before. So I know it sounds like a lot, but it really is as simple as getting started. And I suggest, this isn't financial advice. This is just what I did and what has worked well for me, is get into a full range pool. Start understanding how the pool is affected by price fluctuations. Find one that has good volume. Aerodrome is a great place for that. Uniswap, PancakeSwap, both great places for that. And just find, a set of assets that you have a strong conviction on. For me, it's, Aerodrome. I love Aerodrome. I see what Coinbase is doing. I see how they're leveraging Aerodrome for their, platform native DeFi that they're doing, directly on Coinbase. So people don't have to go to Aerodrome. They don't have to use a wallet and, move, liquidity from their Coinbase account to a wallet to Aerodrome. The complex mechanisms to get in and out of liquidity pools, having to swap and do all those things, all those complex tasks that most normal people out there don't know how to do. They are building out on their platform where you can just have liquidity and you can just deposit that very simply, very easily onto, using your Coinbase account. That is going to be done through Aerodrome. Morpho, they are already using for Bitcoin-backed loans natively on the Coinbase platform. So if you're not paying attention, Base Chain, Coinbase, Aerodrome, and Morpho are going to be huge. You can look at the TVL on Morpho. Price, if you're paying attention to price, you might be scared off looking at Morpho or Aerodrome, with how beat down the prices are. Don't focus on price. Focus on what they are building. If you focused on Amazon, when Jeff Bezos, there's pictures of him sitting in this shitty little office with an Amazon banner on the wall with some crappy little computer, where he was selling used books. That's all Amazon was a used books, online used bookstore, basically. If you looked at Amazon then, you probably would have laughed at anybody that said invest in it. But imagine if you did. That is where we are right now. A lot of DeFi, a lot of these crypto projects are a balding guy sitting in a shitty office with a banner on the wall. We're at the beginning stages of this. We haven't even dipped a toe in to the liquidity that is going to flow into the DeFi and RWA, crypto in general, but very much so in the very near future. DeFi and RWAs. The TVL is nothing. There is trillions and trillions of dollars. When you start looking at tokenization, where the tokenization of stocks, bonds, treasuries, real estate, art, commodities, gold, silver, oil, just all of these different things. It is trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that are traded daily. Value that is moved, liquidity that is moved. We haven't even started this race. This is a life-changing opportunity to get into crypto and DeFi and RWA specifically. Plume. Those of you that don't watch the channel very often. Bullish on Plume, bullish on Ondo. Both are pivotal and actively being built on and used. Plume, over 200 different institutions are currently building decentralized apps on Plume mainnet. 5 or 6 dexes are already live. Ambient that I was showing is one of them. Tempest is another one. Rooster Protocol, Nest is freaking going crazy. That has a basically vaults that you can invest in tokenized treasuries and things like that. It's already up and running. I have some sample liquidity. Actually, you know what? I'll just pull it up. So this is the Plume portal, sexy as shit, and a gateway to whatever you want to do. This is the Nest Alpha, vault. you're only earning like 10%, 5%, 7%, 8%. You're not earning huge. Here's one for 15%, earning off of Plume stablecoin, PUSD. Um, Great yield for a stablecoin, 15%. If I get my portfolio built out to where I have a couple hundred grand, you rest assured, I'm going to have at least 100 grand in something like this. 15%, do the math. I mean, that's 15 grand a year that, steady, that I can earn off of $100,000 of liquidity. You know, that is that foundational principle that I keep talking about. Don't just go for high yield, high APRs, slow and steady. Get to where you're just earning a good solid, couple $100 a month, then 1,000, then 2,000, then 4,000. That is the mindset you need to have. But anyway, let me get back to this. So here are some of the dApps. Right now they're showing 74 that are active right now, or that are either in the launched or about to launch. You got Ambient, all these different ones. Let's go to Nest Protocol, because I really like this. This is a tokenization platform, and the offerings that they have are these down here. So you can get in, like, all of these are RWAs. So you got a delta neutral yield from, Crypto Basis, from Superstate and Midas. You got Carlyle Group, that, is part of this, where you have the Nest Alpha is stable yield from high quality RWAs. Blackstone, part of BlackRock, is going to be launching on it. You got Investco. I mean, these are big names. This isn't some, obscure little, venture capitalist firm or something like that. I mean, you're talking BlackRock. You know, they that's the type of people that are building out on DeFi and RWA platforms. If that doesn't show you that DeFi and RWAs is TradFi 2.0, I don't know what to tell you. They are not going to be building out these platforms if there isn't something big coming. They see what the tokenization of real world assets and making illiquid assets, or, a lower level of liquidity, making them fully liquid to where they can be traded, bought, sold, sent 24/7, 365. So anyway, Nest Elixir Vault, institutional grade DeFi, using DUSD. Nest PayFi Vault, bringing dollars and DeFi with PYUSD, which is PayPal. So that's coming soon. That's going to be 14%. But you can see it's like, yeah, I mean, these aren't stellar returns, but they are safe returns. So in traditional finance, 10%, if you're making 10% annually, that's considered a really good investment. But here, if you can deposit your liquidity, and you got to keep this in mind, with traditional finance, usually you have to go through a broker or some sort of platform that's going to charge you usually a decent amount of fees. DeFi is much lower fees. And with traditional finance, if you want to buy or sell something, it takes time. If you want to, pull money out, you have to put in that order. Your broker, goes through all the manual processes. It might be a week. It might be 2 weeks before you get that money. In DeFi, There we go. So as the markets pump, I'm going to touch on this and I'll close this out. As these markets start pumping, this is again our free tracking sheet, but it includes a tab for a ladder out strategy. And I did an episode on this the other day, that shows how to use this. But I have all my assets in here. And if I hit all of my take profit points, I'll have just over $600,000. Again, that's if I hit all my take profit points. I'm 90% chance I'm not going to hit all of them. If I even make 400,000, 500,000, awesome. If I 10x my portfolio, my DeFi portfolio, awesome. With that much money, I will be rolling when it comes to monthly income. Even if just or earning 10%, $500,000, 10%, that's $50,000 a year. Do the math. What is that? Like 4,200 a month, something like that. So yeah, I mean, 4,200 a month, I'll take that. Just guaranteed. Never goes down. Just always 10%. Get it, or we'll say 15. I mean, hell, what's 15%? Sorry, I'm not a math whiz. So 500,000 times 0.15. That's 75K a year. So if I just took everything that I cashed out, stable coins, and I put it into, where was that? Oh, here it is. So if I just lent out PUSD on Mystic Finance for 15%, if I took, all of my earnings, everything that I made this bull run, if I can 10x my portfolio, I'll make 75 grand a year. Just free money. That's no risk. I mean, there's the risk of the platform going down or something like that, but very minimal risk. And I wouldn't put it all in one place. Let me back up a little bit. I might put a portion of it here, and I'll put a portion of it on Aave and lend it, borrow against it, and I'll do some other things. But for the most part, I'm going to be in stables and just earning a steady APR. 75 grand a year. Somewhere around there, between 50 and 75. And while the markets crash, if we go into another bear market, which I'm sure we will, it might not be as bad as the last, but I'm just going to be letting that build. And I'm going to wait until I feel like we're starting to get towards the bottom. Once we start getting towards the bottom, I'll start taking, some of those stables and redeploying into good projects like, Arrow, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever I feel is a good buy, and just slowly DCA and start building my bags out, my bear market bags, so that I can DeFi those and earn yield off those what the whole time we're trending sideways. The bear market we went through was about 3 years. I mean, if you count this year, 4. But the whole time we're moving sideways, I'm just going to be earning yield. So I might take $500,000, and if I can 10x that again, like I expect I'm going to do this time, and that's conservative. I mean, especially with DeFi. I mean, I've taken 15 grand and turned it into almost 40 in a shitty market so far. So if I can take, if I can take 15 grand and turn it into 40 without the markets even pumping, then if I have 500 grand and go through another bear market and I'm using DeFi to earn, and then we get, the markets pump again, if I'm just stacking tokens that whole time and the market pumps again and I can 10x it again, now I'm playing with 5 million in DeFi. 10% of that, just simple 10% of 5 million. I think you can probably figure that math out, but that's 500 grand a year. $500,000 a year. And I started with 15 grand. My Arrow locks. I started with 2,500 bucks. At the time, Arrow was about 50 cents. I deposited 5,100 tokens. I got the flight school airdrop that they do every month. And I got 2,600 free Arrow. I've been letting that compound each week for the past 6 months. I did the math. I'm going to have over 75,000 Arrow when those unlock in, just under 4 years, like 3 years, 6 months. If Arrow even has a $10 valuation, that 75,000 tokens is going to be worth $750,000. And that's not a stretch. That's not a, freaking, a far stretch, as far as valuations for Arrow with what Coinbase is building out. This is a life-changing opportunity that you are looking at. Not just and you don't have to just do DeFi. I covered this the other day in an episode. Do a mix. Have some hodl bags. Maybe do a little bit of trading. Have a good portfolio in DeFi and earn free dry powder. I haven't spent a dollar of my own money out of my own bank account since I started DeFi. Everything that I've done, everything that I've built has been with free OPM, free other people's money that I've earned in yield. What better way? People always talk about buying the dip and DCAing. What better way to DCA into projects that you believe in than with free money? Want to talk about lowering your average entry? There's no better way to lower your average entry than free crypto. So with that, let's take a look at the questions and we'll end this thing out. Roberto, very good question. How safe is lending on DeFi? Honestly, it's pretty damn safe. The only thing that you have to worry about with lending, or just DeFi in general, is one, the platform. Some platforms offer insurance and things like that you can get as well. But pretty much with lending, your only risks are if the protocol goes under, like Celsius. They went under and, people, lost their money. I think some people are getting their money back, but it's like a fraction of what they had. So there's that risk. And there are malicious smart contracts. Not as common. I've never run into that before or even talked to somebody that dealt with that. But for the most part, staking is the lowest risk. Lending is a little more risk because of the platform. And then full range pools is a lot of the same risks, but there's a little bit of potential for impermanent loss. And I talk about that in episodes, but pretty damn safe. Lending is pretty damn safe. And it's the first step to learning about the lending borrowing flywheel, where you can, leverage up and, earn free crypto, or basically get, free money to, accelerate the building of your portfolio. And I'll get into that in some future episodes. Wow, YouTube is dead. X is where YouTube destroys itself with all of its censorship. Yeah. We have a couple, actually we have like 400 people watching live right now, and pretty much all of them are on X. So yeah, I mean, I really just wish X would let people chat that didn't have a blue check mark. That would help quite a bit. Elon, if you're listening, hint, hint. Boogaloo bum link. Not sure what you mean, but yeah, Link is a great, chain link, great asset. I have a nice bag of it. And there's some DeFi opportunities with it. Coinbase is the custodian for some of those Nest vaults. I'm sure a lot of those nest vaults are going to be cross-chain. Plume, they work with Chainlink, and I mean, they're all working together. The writing's on the wall. If you pay attention and you look, you can see where the connections are, and that's how I'm investing. I invest in fundamentals. I do not invest and I do not get out of positions based on price. If the fundamentals change, I'll take a look at my position, but I do not care what price does. And if you invest and uninvest off of price, you're going to get wrecked. Kyle Watts, what's up, man? Is there any benefit to max locking your arrow? Absolutely. Max locking for 4 years, it gets you the max amount of VE arrow, which is the voting token that you get. So like if you put 5,000 arrow in for 4 years, you get 5,000 VE arrow roughly. And that is your voting power. Your rewards that you get are based off your VE arrow. So if you only lock for 2 years, you're not going to get in 5,000. You're only going to get 2,500 VE arrow, which is, so you're going to get half the rewards that you would have if you would have max locked. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. No, dude, that is the power of compounding yield. So all of those earnings that I get each week, actually, you know what? I'll bring it up. I love being fully transparent. I am not one of those people. I am not one of those. I'm not even an influencer. I hate that word. Um, I'm not one of those that's going to, spruce up my portfolio to make it look like I'm earning more than I'm earning, or, I'm going to be fully transparent, so you can go back and integrity check me. Look at my past episodes. I'm always sharing my spreadsheet. I'm always showing my portfolios and things like that. By all means, call me out. If the numbers don't match up, call me out on it, because I want to make sure that I'm showing. And again, I'm not a DeFi expert. I started 7 months ago. I'm ahead of a lot of people, and I have a lot of time on my hands because I'm retired to dedicate to this. But I'm just sharing my experience and my journey, hoping that I'm helping some of you out there. And again, I say this every time. I do this for free. I'm not going to shill you a project. We don't get paid in tokens. We don't get paid in cash. I make $0 and 0 cents making this content, and the time that I put into social media and everything. It's just to get the word out, to try to get people to come and learn DeFi, because I know people are struggling. They're trying to make ends meet. They're trying to put groceries on the table and keep gas in the tank and keep a roof over their head. This DeFi is such a powerful tool that people can use to change their life, to not rely so much on a paycheck. So yeah, let's get over here. So these are my locks. Connect. So you can see this one here was just a test one that I did with one arrow, but you can see I have 6,755 arrow locked for 4 years in this one lock. That's my original one. That started out as 5,100, and I now have about 1,555 free arrow that I've earned off that, because it's just compounding in. Every time it compounds back in, like now I'm earning about 54% as far as of 67.55, not off 5,100. I'm earning it off of my principal and all of my earned yield. Now down here, you can see in the VE Arrow Maxi Relay, I have another 3,486. This is all free. This was my flight school airdrop plus everything it's earned. So it's earned another 871 arrow. And next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday I'm going to get yield, paid out in both of these. That's, Arrow Lock payday is every Wednesday. And it's just going to keep doing that for the next 4 years. And you can see that this is where I track it. Again, you have to track. You have to track your DeFi. Go to our Discord. Come here to our Discord. You can join the DIG, Discover Investment Group. I posted it in DeFi starters. You can just scroll to the top. Yoop. Never mind. Anyway, it's pinned to the top or right here. DeFi portfolio and ladder out. Just click on that and you can download it there for free. Over here on DCA, on our Discord, just come down to this DeFi library tracking sheets. Click on that. And it's right here. True DeFi portfolio and ladder out strat. Just download it for free. If you're one of those Excel rangers and you know all the formulas and stuff and you can improve it, by all means do so. And please share it with the community. I would love to. I'd love to, find somebody that could, really dial that thing in. I've been doing all I can with my limited skill set. But back to this. So as you can see here, I mean, I've been tracking it much longer than this, but this is just, since I tuned up this spreadsheet. But you can see that now I have 10,241 Arrow in all my locks. I've more than doubled in the past 6 months. I've more than doubled my Arrow holdings. So in another 6 months, I'm going to more than double. I'll have 20,000, and then 6 months after that, I'll have 40,000. So you can see how compounding, and I think I'm figuring that right. But basically, every 6 months so far, actually, no, it wouldn't be that much because I'm not taking into account that a good portion of that was from the airdrop. So basically, I mean, my point is I'm going to have a lot of fucking Arrow when these unlock, and that is what you need to be focused on is the long game. Don't just focus on the immediate gratification and the endorphins that a lot of people that get into crypto with meme coins and with day trading and stuff like that, making 400% on a trade, or getting into a meme coin with $100 and you become a millionaire. For every one of those, and I guarantee you, all of the people claiming, in chats on YouTube and stuff like that, claiming that they're millionaires, from a meme coin, they're not. There's not enough liquidity. If every person that claimed that they made millions on a meme coin, because for every person that makes millions on a meme coin, there has to be thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that lost everything. It's simple math, the liquidity. If there's $10 million of liquidity in a meme token, and somebody, we'll just say, for the sake of argument, they make $10 million, that means everybody else lost everything. Every single person. If 10 people made $1 million, that means that the rest of the people lost everything. It's not possible for everybody to get rich quick in a meme coin. Usually, if you're hearing about it and it's being hyped on social media, for the most part, you're the exit liquidity. It's a bunch of bots and whatever else that they do to get people to FOMO in to these meme coins. And the whole time people are FOMOing in, they're cashing out. You're their exit liquidity. So with that, let's see if Celsius really wasn't DeFi. Celsius was before my time, so I won't comment on that. They used DeFi with our money. I think I know what you mean. You know, that they were using the liquidity to DeFi to try to lever up and make a bunch of money using other people's money. So, okay. Um, yeah, like I said, a little before my time. I wasn't doing DeFi then, and I wish I was. You know, maybe not on Celsius, but you know, I kind of wish I got into DeFi earlier because you know I was trying hodling, and I was just kind of watching my bags just dwindle, in value. Tried trading, won some, lost most of them. Wasn't a big fan of trading. I might try it out again with small amounts of money. Now that I'm making good yield on a DeFi, but for the most part, I'm a DeFi degen to the core now. I've seen what it can do, and there's no going back for me. But yeah, like I said, even in this boring ass market right now, I'm making, 2,600 bucks a month for doing nothing but watching it, watching it happen. I'm just sitting back with my Earl Grey tea, drinking tea, talking to you all out there, just printing money. So yeah, no, if nobody has any more questions, I appreciate y'all tuning in. If you haven't, please by all means, go here, DeFi Crypto Airdrop on YouTube. Join the chat, join the Discord, but go through the DeFi Academy. If you're new, episode 2, hot and cold wallets, how to use them, how to be safe. Ultimate DeFi Toolbox, episode 3. I talk about DeFi Llama, how to use Dex Screener to look up pools, the ranges and how to find ranges, how to, the different analytics I use to find good producing pools, that are going to earn well. DeFi aggregators. I talk about, VFAT.io and Beefy and, Crystal, things, the tools that are going to help you to enter and exit positions and compound easier and find pools easier, things like that. Episode 5, I did a deep dive tutorial on Aerodrome. I talk about the locks. I talk about, how they work and how you earn and how the details of how to maximize your flight school bonus, all of those sorts of things. It's just tons and tons of alpha. I do a deep dive on VFAT specifically, the difference between full range pools and ranged pools, building your DeFi portfolio. I did an episode on just the tracking sheet that I keep showing, how to, properly use that so you can track everything. And then of course, this episode of, just basically how to earn good, consistent, steady yield. So, all right. Well, I'm out. I got to go get ready for a trip. I'm going to be taking off with my lady on going to go down and visit some of her family and do some other stuff, go on some hikes and whatnot. But I'll be online. I'll be mobile, so if the quality might camera and stuff like that might not be as good, but I promise I'll keep the alpha coming. Oop, we got one last question. Mike, I have 10K Arrow tokens on Coinbase. Can I interlock with those tokens, or is USDC required interlocks? Nate, I don't know if I don't know what your whole portfolio looks like. I wouldn't necessarily put, if that's all the Arrow you have, I wouldn't necessarily put all of that Arrow into locks. I would put some of it into full range pools so that you can earn, off of it and, use that yield to open new positions or to, compound back into those positions, things like that. I would diversify a little bit, but I would say, I would say 2,500, but some people have had some issues with that. So maybe 2,600 Arrow, or more, I would put into a lock if you're really bullish on Arrow. And a reason being is, if you watch that deep dive I did on Aerodrome and the flight school locks, um, or bonuses from the locks, you got to put over 2,500 Aero into the lock to get the flight school bonus. So just make sure if you do a lock, you watch that episode and it will detail how to do it. But if you are bullish on Aero, I cannot stress enough how powerful those locks are. But again, once you are locked, it's locked until that lock expires. You can do it for a week. You can do it for a month. You can do it for a year. You can do it max lock for 4 years. You can pick how long you want to lock it. But again, the amount of VE Aero you get is based off of how long you lock it. 100% at 4 years, 50% at 2 years, 25% at 1 year, so on and so forth. So do your research, but I would highly suggest doing a lock if you're bullish on Aero. Yeah, absolutely, Johnny. Hit me up. But again, on Discord is probably the best place, or on X. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to help. And and I'll never ask for access to anything, of course. But all right. Well, with that, again, I got a jet. But till next time, fetching crypto out.